Hello there, and welcome to Fiction Friends. This is episode 4, and today is going to be a little shorter than normal, mainly because the story I have planned for you guys today is going to be a little on the shorter end. So to kind of bulk the episode up a little bit, I'm going to do a little bit more introductory stuff, to talk about the podcast a little bit more. So, as you may or may not know, my name is Kenny, and today I'm joined by a regular guest on the show.
Hi, I'm Elise.
For those of you guys who may not be aware, Elise is not only my editor, but is also a contributor to the podcast in other ways in terms of giving us stories and whatnot. So talking about guests, I want to talk about bringing more guests onto the show. If any of you listeners have been tuning in and go, man, this guy just writes shitty horror and sci-fi and then makes a podcast about it for 30 minutes, 20 minutes, I can do that. And the answer is yes you can. If you want to bring in a story of yours, you can submit it to me, and we can put the information down below in the comment, or in the video information. So if you send me in your story, and I'll review it and make sure it's good for the podcast in terms of theme, and I would more than happy bring you on a Skype call or something like that, and then you can read your story for the podcast. The next thing I want to talk about is I wanted to ask you guys for prompts. I try and ask every podcast to ask you guys for more prompts. This week's prompt actually is from my coworker, Erin, and she gave me the prompt of that really eerie moment that sometimes happens when, you're walking downstairs. You take a step down, and there's that little brief moment between your foot leaving a step and falling onto the following one, where you kind of have this sort of weird, weightlessness to that foot.
So, side note about that, every time I go downstairs, I'm terrified, because I once fell downstairs and broke 2 of my toes and had to have major surgery, and it was a whole big ordeal. And so now, I have to see where my feet are stepping on the stairs, or I'm terrified that I will fall down again.
And this, any fear can sound pretty weird or maybe even stupid to some people, but that's kind of the beauty of horror, is that everything is scary to everyone for different reasons.
Yeah.
And while I might not have a particular fear of walking downstairs, but, Elise does, and, clearly the person who suggested this to me has a fear of walking down or falling downstairs. So I think it's interesting that even the most mundane things can be horrific, dependent upon who's listening to it.
And, of course, how the writer writes it.
Well, naturally, everything is spooky dependent upon how the writer says it. I also wanted to talk about my week a little bit. I just got off of spring break, which is in part why this is coming up so late after the third podcast that was a double feature. I hope you guys enjoyed that, by the way. And my spring break was great. I left my state and went and visited Elise, who lives a state away from me, and I just kind of hung around her place, enjoyed my week off, of my entire week of vacation, which was pretty cool.
Lots of sitting in pajamas and playing board games and video games. Yeah.
Hyrule Warriors, by the way. If you like either Dynasty Warriors as a franchise, or the sort of Hyrulean mythos of games, like all of the Zelda games, if you like at least one of those things, I would give it a try, because that game is pretty damn fun and has a whole lot of playability to it. I've dumped in at least 80 hours, and I've barely scratched the surface.
And I had to mention this, my roommate and I just got a cat, so Kenny got to hang around with our new foster cat for the week.
Yeah, Elise and her roommate, Lauren, they foster kittens and cats now, so they're all super excited about having cats. That's all I really have, so let's go ahead and take a transitional moment and then go into the story. And this week's story is called The Big One. Beep, beep. You hear the sound that lets you know that the door to your room is about to open. You look up from your padded bed in your padded room, and the same orderly as always opens the door and asks how you are, and several other annoying and probing questions. You sit up and look around your padded room that has little more than a single light source that you can't reach, and you answer the orderly's questions. Yes, Barney. No, Barney. You go on until Barney tells you it's time for your walk around the grounds. He reminds you that the sun is good for you. You let Barney put on the wrist cuffs and leg cuffs, and then he moves on to have you follow him outside your room. The floor is cool yet pleasant on your bare feet until Barney puts on your slippers. As the two of you meander around the halls of the 3rd floor of the building, you take in the sights as your morning medicine kicks into your blood flow. You leave that orb of darkness and smile a little as you hear Barney tell you about his family. It has always made you very happy when he would tell you such delightful stories. Your travels take you down several hallways and past many barred windows of the wing of the 3rd floor, until you turn and Barney takes you farther than you normally go. You don't even notice or begin to panic when you look down and see it, the stairs. Barney feels your upper arm tense in his hand as you step down the first few stairs. You're doing it. You're doing it. You're overcoming what put you here in the first place. This overwhelming power that resonates inside of you makes you feel like a hero. And then that orb of blackness seeps back in, and after that 6th step, you send your foot down for the 7th, and boom! You're no longer in the hospital. No padded room. No cool tile hallways. No white stairs. no Barney. Just blank whiteness. In every direction, as far as you can see. You feel the tight grip of fear on your heart, and then it comes into view before you, a wave of black water hurtling over the whiteness around you. Paralyzed as your foot hovers still in place for the 7th step that never was. The blackness overtakes you as you wipe away the sludge from your face after it passed over you, and your stomach churns. You spew a pillar of pestilence onto the ground, and try to scream, yet no sound can be heard except for the skittering and chirping of what you just emptied out of your stomach. Seconds later, you push your foot down as hard as you can, then as if you had taken a step out of an airplane, you're suddenly falling. Falling for seconds, then moments, and you wonder when this daymare will ever end. And then it does. You close your eyes, and when you open them, you're back in the hospital, with the cool hallways and the white stairs. Barney is holding you with both hands, and you can see a splash of vomit on the wall. You look down and you're at the bottom of the stairs, and you look to Barney and smile queerly as he takes you back to your room. You flop to the bed after a shower and another dose of medicine, and the darkness slips away again, and you begin to find some rest, just like it was any other day. So that was a very short story, but I wanted it to be kind of short and powerful, and I feel like that kind of displays the point where it kind of has a very subtle and simple build-up, and then a rush of, like, spooky scariness, and then immediately comes right back down.
Yeah. Because if something spooky happens in that moment where your foot's hovering and not touching anything.
Yeah, and I haven't touched the setting of a mental hospital yet. I think it's a little too stereotypical, but I do think it's a good setting for horror and even some sci-fi stuff. So I wanted to do it at some point. I'm not saying that this is like the only time I'm ever going to do it, but I thought, why not? For a little short but potent story, why not go there?
I think it works and fit the setting and the situation well.
All right, so I don't really have a whole lot else for this podcast. I knew it was going to be kind of short, but I wanted to put something out there so you guys wouldn't have to wait another week or 2 weeks for another podcast to come out. So expect another one coming soon, and I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Once again, my name is Kenny.
I'm Elise.
And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Fiction Friends. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.